Well, I have on the lovely Charlotte, and we got connected through one of the Facebook groups, hilariously. Only I say hilariously because, I don't know, there are good things about the internet, I guess. Which group
Very
was it?
few, but
Maybe we shouldn't even mention the group. Just let's say a group.
yeah, a group that shall
Yeah,
not be named.
exactly. All right, hold on a second. Audio. Okay. All right. Yeah, you had talking points maybe if you wanted to talk or whatever. If you want me to take the reins, it's up to you. I don't know. See
Yeah,
how
you
professional
can
I am.
you can start it off if you want to like ask me some questions or
Yeah.
and
What
then
was
I'll
your? We talked previously a little bit about your kind of backstory and coming to all this. Working in what country was that again?
Oh, when I kind of became a radical feminist.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I would say um I guess it's kind of interesting because I didn't get into radical feminism because of the gender critical aspect. I got into it by being critical of like porn and the sex industry. And so when I became gender critical was a few years later, and I was kind of living on my own in Taiwan and I was teaching abroad. And so I had a lot of time to mull it over and spend a lot of time reading and going down the rabbit hole because you know that happens.
Yeah, but what made you even want, find that topic to go down the rabbit hole? Like, was there anything that spurred it or started?
Yeah, I don't think it's like an uncommon story actually, because if I remember correctly, and this was like years ago now, so it's hard to remember exactly one little thing I can
Mm-hmm.
pinpoint, but I think I was in several like feminist groups on Facebook, and I would try to have like what I thought were reasonable conversations about topics,
Mm-hmm.
and like we all know what happens when you try to engage in those type of conversations in Facebook feminist groups nowadays. So it's starting to become like that even then. And I think I had said something, I really don't remember what it was, but I got called a turf. And then I,
Back in what year? This blows my
uh,
mind. Like, how long
yeah,
ago?
I mean, I think it was like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. And I was just like, what? Like, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. But did you know it was something that they were, trying to throw at you like a slur? Like, it wasn't a nice, just a
Yes.
general term where they're like, it's not a slur or whatever. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And, people always say that, but like, I instantly felt like something behind it, like,
Right.
so obviously there's something to be said for that argument.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I could tell it was kind of like vitriolic. I just didn't know exactly what it meant. I didn't even realize it was an acronym, I think. Like I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
So
It's so silly. I think we should be laughing at this shit. It's like, what?
yeah, and I really wish I could remember what I had said, like what spurred it. But I'm sure it was just
Does it
something
matter? Yeah.
very innocent, so to speak.
Anything,
And
like
so I was,
everything.
yeah, anything and everything, hasn't changed
Mm-hmm.
very much. And so I just started like trying to figure out what made me a turf. Like, why was I like this? But it wasn't anything like where I thought it was my fault or like
Yeah.
I was a bad
Why
person
would this person
suddenly.
say that about me? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, like I must be terrible. I need to like prostate myself.
Did you have
like
that feeling like really they made you feel like you're the bad guy?
yeah, and I've been called names, like I've gotten into conversations that turned less than polite and feminist, and it's liberal feminist groups. I will
So,
say that. Like most feminist groups on Facebook
mhm.
are liberal feminist groups. So, I would get people like DMing me right after I bowed out of the conversation and calling me a psychopath and stuff like that. Like I've been called so many things, you
Oh
know.
my god. So it's just like they're trying to guilt people or scare them into following the ideology? Like, how are you going to convince someone by calling them names and slurs? Or,
Right.
what a
Well,
how
now
awkward is
since
that?
it's taken on such like a mind of its own, that that is an effective method, because people don't want to be the bad guy, like, but I am the type of person that I've always approached everything with like probably an unhealthy degree of skepticism. So,
skeptic.
Yeah,
skeptic.
exactly. So
Come
I was
on.
immediately,
I think it's healthy.
Yeah. And, like, if someone's going to call me a name, I'm going to figure out what the hell it means.
And not just take it like, oh, shit, you're right, I'm a bad guy.
Exactly. And I do not want to be a bad guy. Like, let's just put that out there. Obviously, like, nobody does, which is how they get you.
Especially when you know you're not coming from a... I'm just going to speak for myself here. I'm not coming from a, you suck, I don't like you, you're different. I'm fucking different. Like, I'm weird, and I've always encouraged individuality and breaking the norms, I guess. Just having fun with stuff, so I'm like, this is so rich that... they're gonna say that I'm excluding shit. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Standing up for women's rights is excluding some other group? That has nothing to do with it. Like,
right.
But also, it's such a fake.
Are exclusionary. That's okay. Like, I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, actually, because I just find it so insane. Sorry to cut you up, but
no, you're fine. Take it.
I find it so like insane and insidious that like we've almost lost the definition of what a group actually is, and the purpose behind having groups and like organizing into groups. You get more done that way. There's less distractions. Like, it makes sense. It's not an inherent judgment on people that don't belong in the group. It's just that sometimes you don't, and you have to accept that, and that's a perfectly normal thing to for adults to be able to accept. And I just feel like it's crazy that we're supposed to be inclusive of everyone and anyone, and it really has watered down the feminist movement, in my opinion.
It's also just blurring boundaries. Like, I mean, women specifically, how can you deny that reality of we need safe... I don't like using the word safe spaces because now they've ruined that shit, or just the world culture in general. But, like, I mean, rape crisis centers are specifically for... I guess the women's ones, obviously, I don't know how they quite work.
Yeah, I mean, there's male ones.
Yeah, it's like
not
they're
that
specifically...
many, obviously.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Right. Specifically for, the women's ones are, I mean, is it not obvious to people? Do we really have to explain this shit? Women are usually the ones that are raped. Men just don't belong there. That shit blows my mind that they take that personal, like, how you're excluding me as a dick wavering man who puts on a dress from your... What? How?
Oh, yeah.
I just...
The crazy thing is that now we're being forced in having those discussions to entertain MRA talking points, like, well, women do that too, and stuff like that, where traditionally that would not have been like a feminist argument. Like, we're now being forced to entertain those arguments, and it's coming from the left, and I just find it so insidious. Yeah, but
mega. I mean, telling someone who did the raping in a court, you go say they want to go by she. How insulting! You so raped insulting. Me. I'm just making this scenario, but it's real. It's
oh yeah, it happened.
I mean, I don't know what the repercussions are if you don't abide by that. I don't know, like. But it's ridiculous. It's like, how I'm going to call you a man, like your male behavior and your male member did the raping, and I'm going to sit here and call you a she? Fuck off.
Oh, no. Exactly.
You got to be kidding me. Like, that's one of those things that's very clearly male and female. Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
And I think the difference is that it's such a huge part of our material reality. Yes. And the ironic part is that, the reason that men can't understand that is because they don't experience that on such a large scale. And that's just the ironic part of it all,
Yep.
So, yeah. And I mean, even leftist men that I've talked about, being sexually assaulted with, they'll just blow it off as if it's no big deal. But these are the same guys that are making these arguments to me and, who would call me hateful. It's just, I don't know. It's so insulting. Like, the whole thing
Yeah.
is just unbelievable.
Yes, the shit. I'm like, if I hear that motherfucking term one more time, trans misogyny.
Oh, okay. I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about, and this will probably be like the first episode on my YouTube channel where I'll talk about, because a lot of time, like, I want other women to speak out, and a lot of the time what we'll get is like, why are you doing this? You know, with like,
Are you
that
okay?
face.
Are you okay? Did something happen?
Did a conservative anvil fall on your head? Like, I don't. What's wrong
Oh my
with
god. I know.
You know,
I love
like-
how they do this like blaming thing. Like, you need to check yourself. What's wrong with you? Like,
Right.
that's not a way to approach someone that you care about. Like,
Yeah.
it's so interesting to me that it's a reoccurring theme that people that ride along with this and have been captured by the cult ideology, that it's just, that's how they, like, a lot of my best friends and ex-best friends approach me in that way. Or, you know, you're very, I don't know how to talk to you. I'm trying to gather my thoughts from you because I don't know how to talk to you because you're anti-trans or trans exclusionary. And like, that's
It's like
the
it
first thing they
puts a
say. I'm
wall
like,
between them and you, and they're just like, I don't know how to.
yeah, I'm like, gee,
We're not the
thanks. Like, you're
same.
already getting it wrong. How am I supposed to remain cool when you already have misunderstood me completely? Like, why? God,
Well, and
there's
that's
just better ways to approach it. But I feel like it's an intentional tactic. Like, how did they learn this? Because there's just this crazy same. Even I don't know, dude. Maybe it's just the general cult thing. You know, making them think that anyone that doesn't agree with all this is the bad guy, and you have to always frame them that way. It's very subtle, I feel like.
it is that, and I don't know if you watch many trans YouTubers, but they will, or, you know, trans ally YouTubers, they will misrepresent us horribly. Like, it is, it's just, you're just watching it and you're like, no. Yeah, it's really frustrating. And, but those are the people that get to be seen before you get to be heard, and so that's what happens. You know,
it's the shit we've seen with the J.K. Rowling and now the Gina Carano thing,
I think.
where
Yeah,
it's like, it's the same shit, where it's like they heard she was anti-Semitic and Holocaust, whatever, and people are just going with that. I'm like, did you read what she wrote? And even people that have read what she wrote, I'm like,
one thing, we must also be guilty by association.
Exactly.
It's
like,
the whole guilty by association thing.
Yeah, or
we
just,
really need to rethink that whole approach, in my opinion.
Yep.
But yeah,
like, you can't even talk about historical moments now of like what happened, because it was such a great point. I'm like, was it risque bringing up Jew stuff? I'm like, I want to say yes, but I'm like, no, because what are we going to do? Ignore history? Like, well, she had a good point.
I think the reason that she brought it up was just to draw attention to how it became so bad in the first place to get to that point. I don't think she meant it to be anti-Semitic. I'm not going to go ahead and say how Jewish people should feel about it. You know, like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, I think that in terms of that, and you know what? I'm sorry, but we are called Nazis all the time. Like, let me just put that out there. Like, so, you know, if you're gonna call us Nazis, like,
I want to read what she said, because I just want to use my platform to read what she said, so I can, I guess, dissect it. Explain, because Posey Parker put a thing out yesterday or today talking about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank you. All right, this was whatever. I know that she's like anti-mask or something, or something about Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Whatever. I'm like, she's.
Before we knew all of that, she had come under fire for the pronoun thing already. So,
which is great. I was like,
that was like kind of, I didn't even really know much about her, who she was, and it was just the fact that you can like say something like that, and you know, that's the immediate response.
Yeah, her pronoun. You know, apparently, her fan base was like hounding her to put her pronouns in her bio, and she was like not having it, because you're not gonna make. I'm speaking like it's her. You're not gonna make me do what I don't want to do. I just don't. You know, y'all can do that, but I don't want to partake in that. Like, why you gotta hound me for that? Yeah. So she put for my pronouns beep-bo boop or beep-bop boop or something, which is obviously making light of it because it is ridiculous. And I was like, yes, love it. And I never really saw the backlash of it, just because I was like, I love her. I don't need to see it because I know that it's just gonna be a mess. But, Yeah, I think she's conservative or something, and it's just, and a woman. So let's see here, and I quote: Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. What's funny is that, okay,
I
goddamn it, I'm
think
cutting
that's
off
the
here.
key point,
Yes,
actually.
but it's
Yeah.
funny, when I read this, I did somehow weirdly read it as that Jewish people were beating their own Jews, and I was like, oh my god, even I misread it.
Oh,
And it might
okay.
have been because it was an article I read before we even got to what she said, which is manipulation of my own mind. Let me just start over because I don't want to interject with my own comments because you don't know when I end the quote or start it. Anyways,
Go for it.
Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? What is anti-Jew about that? Basically, it sounds like to me, the humankind were propagandized or were just told by the Nazis and led to believe that Jews are bad people. So people started turning in on their own people, which it happened to be Jews here. And it just made it easier for the Nazis to be like, thanks for doing the job for us. Good job. Like,
Yes.
is that not obvious? Is that not, that's how I read. I mean,
That's how I read it too. And it's interesting because it may have been like, I had read it just after watching like a whole documentary about Edward Bernays, the father of like propaganda.
yes, I was like, why does it sound so familiar? Yeah. I know a little
And
bit.
so
Deprogrammer did a video
I
about that.
kind
Yep.
of immediately like saw the point that she was trying to go for with
Yes,
that.
right?
But it's true. And when I was watching that documentary, I was like, oh my God, like the parallels between what Edward Bernays did with like the marketing the cigarettes towards
Yes.
women and
Are you talking about the
framing it.
Deprogrammer video? Or
No, I think
you said? Okay.
it was, I'll think of the
No,
name
you're
in a
fine, you're fine.
second. I'll
Sorry,
think of
go
the
ahead.
name of it,
My bad.
but yeah, so it was just kind of talking about how like we got to this point with modern like marketing and propaganda, and how he had he saw an opportunity to market cigarettes to women and frame it as empowering, and it just, oh my God, like the parallels between like what liberal feminism does and that, it just like hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yes,
It was nuts.
great point. Now I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole, it was Torches of Freedom that I don't remember who was behind it. Just a like that, who was Bernays? He psychology, or like learned how to.
He was the nephew of. Why is my brain not working?
You're fine. No, like what did he do?
Austrian guy.
Oh, it's fine. But what did Bernays do? He was basically, he learned how to manipulate minds with propaganda and media.
Yeah,
right?
basically that's it. Like that was his whole like thing. Like I think his claim to fame was that he would just had like famous relatives at first and that was it. And then Freud, that's who it was.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, my brain is crazy
You're
today.
fine.
But yeah, he was the
Okay.
nephew of Freud. So, and he was American, I believe.
Oh, I'm sure. The whole
but,
cigarette
yeah.
shit was hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
they basically had movie stars wear the color green. Apparently, the Lucky Strike cigarette boxes had a green circle on it, and green wasn't like a posh, like in color. So they
and then it
literally
was. Yeah.
had LA actresses or actors, I think it's mostly women actually, wear like green dresses to award shows, and they staged like this march thing or some shit with women smoking cigarettes, which apparently was like unheard of back then. So it was normalized and uplifted, and it was. Hearing this shit is hilarious because they framed it in a way that smoking cigarettes was like freedom from.
That's what it was.
kitchen
yeah,
or something? I don't remember.
Exactly. It was freedom.
So
it was
hilarious.
liberation.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
all you really
And it worked. People
Yeah.
believed it.
And he totally exploited that. And
Cigarettes sold.
and so all you really need to do, and people I think are just searching for a way to be like subversive, like and reclaim their freedom and their empowerment. And I think that's like a very like attractive thing to people.
Yeah.
And I think that is what captured so many people on the left with this movement, because I mean, there are parallels to be drawn,
Yeah.
between
Excellent point.
that and this movement and this ideology. And I think, especially for men on the left, I think it was getting very tiring just trying to be a regular old feminist ally, and wasn't really working out for them. They wanted to feel like they were like standing for something and being super like subversive and sticking it to the man and stuff like that.
You mean like how they're acting now? I don't know. I'm clueless.
Yeah, with the trans rights movement and all that.
Well, I also just think it's men protecting men. Like, you're not going to allow a man to do what he wants. Sit your ass down, woman. Like, I don't know why they don't just come out and say that. I'm like, just say that. Like, why are you skating around this trans thing and like putting that in front of you? Like, I'm not really misogynist. Let me just hide behind this. Like, bitch, we know what you're doing. I know. Come on. Why don't you just be straight up offensive? I hate this.
I would prefer
stuff.
That. I think a lot of women would prefer that.
Jesus, man.
I want to go back to the because you just reminded me of the trans misogyny thing.
Oh yes, my bad.
So that was So I really just wanted to touch on that because I actually had a former guy friend of mine call me trans misogynistic, and I was just like shocked.
A trans-identifying person?
Not that I know of. I know he would consider himself an ally, but like so would most of my liberal-minded friends. So I wouldn't be surprised by that, by any means. And I know that he's a person who tries to be gender non-conforming, and that's cool. Like again, but it's this like framing as somebody that you're supposed to know as a friend, as a woman that you like respect and you're friends with, reframing that person like immediately for no apparent reason as just like this evil, hateful bigot, And so, he misrepresented a lot of things that I said because I feel like, we spend so much time in our groups and our gender critical groups and our rad fem groups and stuff talking about this stuff. Sometimes I tend to forget that people have not really looked at things like postmodernism and queer theory with like such a critical eye or haven't read a lot about it.
This whole thing is encouraging you to not be a critical thinker.
Exactly.
Like you only take what you're being told. No thinking. That's a cult. That's a cult.
Yeah.
That is literally what a cult is. One of the parts of a cult.
Yeah, and I'll say something, I can't think of an example right now, but I'll say something and I'll just get like, whoa, do you hate gender nonconforming people then? Just like immediately, I'm like, no, what? I was very gender nonconforming as a child. Most girls were in the 90s, which is ironic now, but yeah, like, it was just so crazy to me, and I really don't think men will ever know just like the frustration and the rage of just being a woman fighting for her rights and being called misogynistic towards men. Like
So what is misogyny? Let's look that up. Is that even in my dictionary? I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't even think I could describe like the feeling of having to deal with that. It's just bullshit all
it's like
around.
A life experience. There's a lot of things just growing up a female that happen to you that are maybe big or small. It's just like you can't really explain that shit. It's just the experience of being a female. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what it's like to be a man. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I even have a fucking clue. Because I have a female body. That's why the whole trap in the wrong body thing is total BS.
Right.
Like, you have the body.
You are your body.
If you're touching that, like that is your body.
This is my body, yes.
I think it's just the biggest excuse to convince other people because it's in the mind. We can't prove mind stuff or whatever. It's just like, there's no actual factual like studies with this. It's just such bullshit. It's like you only have one body. You're gonna do irreversible damage. It's just
and it's a dead end argument, right? Like you can't go anywhere with that argument.
Every one of their arguments,
circular, dead end.
That's why they cut it off. That's why they immediately call you a term or a hateful thing. Where it just makes you go, oh my god, well that's not me. Jeez, I won't say that again because that made me feel really bad. And the conversations just shut off.
Yeah, just sheer ridiculousness of the circular arguments,
calling,
the thought-terminating cliches, all that stuff that you're...
They don't want to have a... Yes. Go... That they what?
No, go ahead.
I mean, they don't want to have a... They don't want to have a conversation, and they shut it down immediately because they know they don't have any logical argument. I mean, they know. It's just... and if they do have a conversation, they'll be like, well, I don't want to offend anyone, but trans women are women.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not even what we're talking about. I don't know if you saw that video of like a
well, it's like if you don't agree with that, then the conversation can effectively end right there because, you're supposed to just agree and you're supposed to state the mantras first and then you can proceed.
Have you heard the joke about that with the comparing it to Handmaid's Tale or Handmaid's Tale? I don't know how you say it. Or
yeah, Handmaid's Tale.
Where I think the phrase in that show is under his eye, where you just like it's like a bleeding and a leaving thing, and it's like trans women are women, trans women are.
I've seen women
my husband would slowly went to go whisper, and he was like, Hail Hydra, and I was like, well, Hail Hydra is more secretive. Okay, that's a joke, y'all. It's from a fucking comic, but like they're more quiet about it. But this shit is like trans women are women. Let me clarify: trans women are men. They are trans-identifying males. They are not women. Okay. Anything that is reality and real and the sky is blue. Are you gonna sit there every day and say the sky is blue? Right? Say it now. The sky is blue. You don't need to repeat stuff when it's real. So is that not the biggest like? Hello, that should wake you up. Like, what? Why do we have to repeat this? Oh, because it's not true. Hello?
Because one person is blind and they can't see the sky.
Oh my God.
No, but it's effectively that. But yeah, so...
And repeating it, so then it just gets in your head and you're like, yes, I believe it. That's just another tactic.
It's so funny because it's like so instant. Like I remember one of the first things that like piqued me, I guess, which
there's a million. I mean, every day.
Yeah, it's like, where do I even begin? Because it's like a constant thing that happens once it starts,
Yep.
But I had posted an article or something, and I think I did realize that when people, clicked on, saw that on my Facebook, they would think it was transphobic, but I didn't think it was transphobic, obviously. And so my friend instantly comments, like, this is transphobic, like, you need to delete it or something. And if she sees this, she'll know it's her I'm talking about. But yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, and I deleted it. And it's just like, I'm not normally that type of person.
Right.
So I think I was just so shocked that it was my friend calling me out for that, and I wasn't really ready for that, which is another thing we can talk about, like what will happen inevitably when you start to speak out about this stuff, because it will happen. And so I was just kind of like, okay, wasn't ready for that yet. Wasn't ready to have that conversation yet. So
no, it's funny how
it's
I mean, they're shitty tactics to make you feel like you're the one at fault and it's your mind needs to change about it. Ugh, I hate saying like it works, but it's just one of those things that really gets to people, like, especially when you aren't trying to be exclusionary or hurting anyone's feelings, and they're, making you feel like you're the bad guy. I mean, when I posted my thing on Facebook, it was about that guy who raped his own child and then went to prison and then got taxpayers' money to... I think transition, which isn't real. You can't become the opposite sex. And then also be put in a women's prison. I posted that and I was like, all I said was, think about what you're backing and what is it really, like something along the lines of, men pretending to be women are being put in female spaces, like something like that. It was just I wanted people to think. And man, the backlash, it was like, wow, I can't believe you. Are you kidding me? What, full stop or goodbye, Lindsay. God, I wish I had it pulled up.
I know.
When it happened,
the drama of it all.
And there were so many comments, and my mind was blown. I was like, this is the hill you're gonna die on? A dad raping his own child? I'm like, what?
That's what drama. You're gonna... That's the fucking dramatic part. Is the man
don't get
raped
it.
his child and went to a woman's prison, like...
I'm like, wait a minute, did you... What this is what you're gonna fucking defend? Are you
Oh yeah.
insane? I could not believe it, and I had this sense of what's going on in the world? What's
Yeah.
going on? And I realized very shortly
Shocking.
after that, 100%, that people, I didn't have people kind of backing it up until my husband was like, "Oh, let me add it," because people are afraid of losing their circles, their friends, their job, and
Hmm.
it might have been a public Facebook post. Like enough said, people. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to get at people's cases, but at the same time, about speaking out, I'm like, you're gonna have to at some point. I feel like because
Yeah.
are you just gonna let them keep walking all over you? Are you having fun? Like a
Yeah.
lot of people have already lost their jobs and shit. It's honestly beyond worth it if you're standing up for what is truly right and true in the world and reality. It's
Hmm.
indescribable. It's nothing about like my ego and boosting my ego. It's just like some sort of. It's just so peaceful. Like it's
Yeah.
true freedom because you're just
Because
not
you're
living in
not
fear.
carrying it around inside of you. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
true. This whole trans ideology. So it's just
Yeah.
releasing yourself from that and not being worried about saying certain things. Just like fuck it, dude. Like this is ridiculous.
I used to be, that's a good point too, because you won't have that fear of what will happen if I
Yes.
speak out anymore, and it won't be, like trapped inside of you anymore. Like, okay, you might have to, I was so deathly afraid of like having to argue with one of my male friends about what a woman was, and that conversation happened and
Yeah,
it pissed me off.
of course.
But, at the end of it, like, and we don't really talk anymore. I don't think he's like blocked me or
Mm.
deleted me, but he caught sight of my Tumblr and all hell broke loose. Yeah, because I went back on Tumblr as like a radical
Mm-hmm.
feminist.
Good.
And, I just happened to like have shared something off my Tumblr onto my Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It,
all hell
it's
broke loose. He DM'd me, and it was basically like it felt like interrogating me about, well, what is a woman? Like almost expecting me to come to the same conclusions as him, and when I didn't, it was just like we reached an impasse.
Did he say what a woman was?
Like all of their arguments basically boil down to one thing, which is that either we can't possibly define it, it's the boundaries of definition aren't there, it is floating on the wind, like it's just something so like abstract that we can't
Yes, that's the word,
possibly.
abstract. I keep hearing that shit. Where
Right.
they think that's
Or
like a progressive, like the whole biology. What do they call it? Modern biology or some shit. The new one.
yeah. But it's
What the?
not the biology that's the abstract thing. It's the fact that we try to place people into these boxes of like dress and language and action. That's
Oh
the
yeah.
abstract part of it. And I just feel like that's become so convoluted, like, and when you try to explain that that's um the angle that you're coming at it from, it's you're never going to reach, a conclusion because you're coming at it from a different
Yes.
viewpoint.
Exactly. I'm like, hold up. Before we even continue this conversation, do you believe biological sex is immutable?
Yeah.
I need to know the answer because otherwise, I mean, that's going to be a nightmare conversation because it's like fantasy land and reality. Like,
Yeah, it's magical thinking and material reality, and
it
women's
literally.
oppression is based in material reality, based
Yes.
on our biological sex.
Fucking hell. I found
Um,
the post December 22nd. I just said, realize and question what is it you're supporting? Men pretending to be women so they can insert themselves into women's spaces? Is this what you desire? And the actual story is father who raped own child will receive taxpayer funding for gender transition and move to women's prison.
yeah,
Goodbye, Lindsay. You're an opinion looking for a reason. You're not thinking this through, and it's turning you into something ugly.
opinion looking for a reason. Wow,
I like barely know this guy, and
wow.
by the way, what is so ugly about what I said? I'm like, I didn't do the raping. What the fuck is wrong with you? What? This is crazy
Well,
town.
that's one of the rules of misogyny. Can't think which one right now, but
Oh my
women are
god.
always responsible for the actions of men.
Oh fuck. Oh god.
And
We're gonna
doesn't
keep
that
going
just
because they're
hit you?
hilarious.
Because that's so true. I mean, I'm
Of course it is. I
I'm
know. That's why I
trans
was like, oh.
misogynistic. I'm
How
transphobic.
ridiculous. It's so
Yeah,
insulting. Okay, let
I
me read
know.
another one. There's a, wait, let me, no, let's see. Oh, okay. Let me read this, Tiffany, you're on Twitter? Are you on Twitter?
Not anymore.
Oh, okay.
No,
Well,
I
there's,
wasn't banned or anything. I
yeah,
can't
because
join the ranks, but
this is a quote. They're joining the ranks. This is a quote from a woman that got banned for. This might have been why she got banned. I'm not sure. Quote: This adult male is allowed to see your underage daughter naked in a public shower facility because he says he's a woman, and if we don't let him, he says he'll kill himself. End quote. She said, "Say it loud." Twice, then consider that this is where we're at currently in Western society in 2020. So I posted that screenshot, and one of my ex-friends, who is a cyclist who competes in cycling, and she's really good, and this just blows my mind. What? She said, "What? Are you serious? This is ridiculous. And you should actually speak and listen to some trans people rather than judge based on ridiculous assumptions put forth by fearful straight people."
the amount
Oh.
of times, the amount
Wait,
of
one more
time.
sentence. This is so ignorant and awful. I can't believe you shared this.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Okay, fine. Have fun getting your ass handed to you by men and you're fucking, like, she's a huge cyclist racer. I'm like, what do you mean am I serious? This is reality. Like, why does this come down on me? I didn't, this isn't me doing that shit.
You know, people hate inconvenient truths, like the fact that there are conservative gay people and the fact that there are black people that would agree with almost any opinion that I would personally have, you know, even if it wasn't like a generally held opinion on the left, you know, stuff like that. And it's just like the guilty by association. You better, like, why don't you just talk to a trans person?
Yeah, I'm like,
will any trans person do? Because I know a few that you might not want me to talk to because they don't agree with you. So
yeah, true.
It's like
one of them also said kind of that, where they're like, I have a trans friend and blah blah blah. I'm like, you have one trans friend and that's what you're trusting and writing this entire thing on? I'm like, what? Also, way to assume that I haven't heard trans identifying
right,
people.
exactly.
Like, I've heard a lot. D-trans, currently still trans. The, Reddit crowd. I'm like, I've done a lot of looking into it because I'm not like you, where I refuse to see the other side. Like, I want to figure it out. I want to figure out why they think this way and what's going on. So, isn't that just what you're supposed to do to, like help yourself out? To, like, educate yourself?
Yeah, and I mean, the funny thing is, I have 3 trans friends.
Mm-hmm.
2 pretty good friends of mine from when I lived in Taiwan. We would hang out like on a semi-weekly basis, you know, and this wasn't in like a political like context. So we were just friends, like normal people, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I was gender critical at the time. Did it affect my friendship? No, because it didn't affect how I treated them as people, you know? But I think these people just can't even wrap their heads around that because you become this monster immediately. You know,
I just think it's fun for them, or there's some sort of group mentality of like ganging up on people that don't get it and aren't progressive or getting with the times or using new science or whatever the hell they say.
I would say liberal
like, we're
rather
old
than
school.
progressive. You know, I would make that distinction.
What is progressive conservative shit? I don't know what that. I don't know.
No. I'm saying like I don't find the transgender ideology particularly progressive.
Of course not. Well, that's how they see it, though. I'm talking like how they would see it.
Definitely.
I feel also I've heard some stuff about how they think that, real biological science is like dated and like grandma thinks that, like, I think I already said that, where I'm just like, what? What are they teaching in the schools? Do you know if they don't believe in
my grandma would say that. That's just a logical fallacy. Like, quit throwing logical fallacies at me.
You can poke so many holes in every one of their arguments. It's so silly.
Right? Terrible arguments, terribly thought out,
really
poorly
bad.
Worded. I just
the classic one is like, educate yourself. You look it up. You should know. You look it up. I'm like, isn't it your job? I'm trying to have a conversation with you.
The burden of proof is on you. Yeah.
I'm like, well, what? That's so very obvious that you have nothing to say, that you're like, well, it's your job, that you should know. So go look it up. I'm like, but what the fuck? I'm talking to you. You can't even help out your own whatever you're standing up for. Oh, what was I going to say? Something about this is what kills me. Whenever you believe in something and you know it, let's just believe believe it. It's just reality, like biology and science and two genders or sexist. Oh God, ooh, Jesus. But like we know it to be true, but like I welcome questions and conversations like let's go you know, because I believe in this and I know it's true, but isn't this so telling that when you try to have a conversation with them, they're like, well, you know, and they just like frantic. I don't know. Like if you believed in it, why would you shut a conversation down? It's so obvious to me that they don't really actually believe in it, or they're just like riding along with what they're being told to because they're like, fuck, I don't know. I mean, you look it up. It's like, well, you don't even believe in it or trust it because you have nothing to say. Without calling me names. I will have a conversation with you if you don't call me fucking names. I don't know, or assume shit that I'm saying. This is why I'm kind of done with the whole having debates with people that I do know or don't know. I mean, I guess it depends. It's just like, I'm not here to convince you, man. I don't know.
And I think because this ideology is based in magical thinking and based on you know, postmodernist thoughts and beliefs and ideals, like it's just really hard to have a conversation that doesn't end up being circular and where you can agree on the definitions of terms. I feel like to have a meaningful conversation, you need to be able to agree on your terms.
Yes.
You know, that's a really basic, you know, part of having a meaningful conversation. Can you explain what
postmodernism is? Like, what is that? Or queer theory?
So, oh gosh. It's just such a rich history there. No, I mean, so like postmodernism is sort of like a movement, you know, like a prevailing train of thought, of belief throughout that kind of permeated like philosophy, the arts,
like
architecture,
a new mindset around the world
stuff.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it was kind of, obviously it was moving from what was modernism, you know, hence the name postmodernism. So for example, but it's, you know, mainly a Western philosophy. So I'm just going to actually read like the definition because I feel like I'm not going to articulate it
you're
as
fine.
good.
You're fine.
And, you know, I have no
that's good with me.
No embarrassment about doing that, but I'll kind of like talk about how I look at it too. So it says a Western philosophy, a late 20th century movement characterized by broad skepticism, subjectivism, or relativism. And that's kind of the really important characteristic of it that will help us understand where this ideology springs from. A general suspicion of reason. There we go. An acute sensitivity to the role of ideology in asserting and maintaining political and economic power. So this is where queer theory springs from as well. And queer theory, I feel like, you know, it's become so celebrated and this like bastion of like freedom and where we can find freedom from our material reality. And when in fact, it's just the opposite, because it really, it gives us the mistaken belief that we can change any aspect of our reality by simply willing something into being. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's like, oh my God, it reminds me of, what was that fucking book that Oprah was like, yes, what is that shit? Remember the whole Oprah book? It was like that. Oh my God. It was like basically thinking that you can become a millionaire and you can become a millionaire.
Yes. Okay.
It was a huge
Yeah,
thing.
so it's kind of, oh, what is it called? Like
I
the
don't know.
power or the
It's
secret?
not the power of now. It's not. Yeah, it's the secret. The
That, the
secret.
secret, that's the one. I
Where
love the
it's like,
power of now, though. By the
oh,
way,
me too.
I
Me
love
too.
Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, me too. Oh my god. I'm like, you're
I love
the real life Yoda we all need.
Oh, he gives me like such a sense of peace.
Yes. Yes.
But,
My calendar is, anyways. Yes.
I appreciate him. Anyway, back to Oprah. Oprah and her secret. Yeah, and
Maybe
it's kind of like
Oprah's
this.
type.
You can manifest, and you know, like, I'm not saying I completely throw out all notions
Yeah,
of
there's
like
absolutely some truth
energy
to that.
transfer and things of that nature. But just, and this is where you kind of start to see like a resurgence in the whole like cultural relativism in like liberal feminists and things like that, where like the, you know, everything's so subjective and that's like totally valid all the time, and like there's no like larger consideration of, you know, the out, like the implications of things such as like forcing women to wear a hijab, for example, or something like that, where like feminist thought tries to look at the bigger picture, you know, and you know, and we're not the ones like telling women take it off or don't do this or that, you know, but it's just like, yeah, where you can find ideas like that, like with the cultural relativism, subjectivism, that's a big part of it. Yeah, but I love the general suspicion of reason.
I know, that's what some of it, what you said, like, sounds in theory good or not bad. You know, skepticism or whatever you said about that, where I'm like, it just sounds like almost like it was or good ideas went way overboard. I mean, it's like, it's just unrealistic levels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, a man cannot become a woman.
Everything in moderation, you know?
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, where you see that is like when I do reserve a lot of critical thought for like sort of how the AGP men try to present themselves, and that's not to say that I'm against gender nonconforming people, which is where I always, you know, butt heads with people on that, but I do find it cathartic at times to make fun of AGP men, and I don't give a single shit.
Yeah.
That is my prerogative as a woman, and it's not like it's not, you know, I feel like they see it where we're trying to like assert our claims over femininity, but I'm like, no, you're misunderstanding where we're coming from on that.
Once the genie's out of the bottle and you know that there's all these layers, onion layers to all this madness, and I think AGP is a huge part of it. Here's the thing, it's different. It's not, like children being medicalized, social contagion,
so many different aspects. Yeah,
kids running away from trauma, or people just running away from not even kids. What I'm talking about, people running away from their trauma. Yeah, but I feel like a lot of it's connected to trauma of like sexual abuse or not wanting attention. Or I've heard this one is fascinating. Just the psychology and all this is, you know, men will become a woman to become the mom they never had, or the girl will become a man to become the dad they never had. And I've heard of stories of that. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so fascinating and sad. And I can totally see that being a thing. Or one of them was, oh my God, it was crazy. The family had, it was you know, husband and wife had 2 kids. One was a boy and a girl. And like the boy died. And the girl, like, I think not, without even like realizing what it really was, became a boy to like soothe the parents. And I was like, oh, what the? There's just so many different angles. And again, then there's the older adults or men that could never find a woman to sleep with or something, and they try to become a lesbian. I'm like, who the fuck are you going to convince? And then
generally referred to as trans cells. Yeah.
Oh, that's what that is.
But TERF is the new incel, though. I don't know if you've heard that. So
it is. What do you mean?
I'm an incel.
Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Can you explain what is incel? No, I know what it is, but
I
say
can't
what it is.
Explain it. It makes
what
no
is
sense.
Incel? What's incel? Can you define it?
Involuntary celibate. So it was a term that came about in like I think the late 80s or early 90s. It's just describe. I think actually a feminist came up with it as like a joke. like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
and but it became, you know, the generally referred to like name for men on the internet who were like complaining about not being able to get laid. So yeah.
But it's also
but that's why, you know, hence the name Transcel. It's like this is a thing. It's a subgroup.
Oh no, I've heard of it, but
there's so many
mashings and rearranging, and I'm like, oh, my
I
brain,
know.
my God. It took me like literally a day to realize what they meant by saying not just women bleed or whatever it was, and then I was like, oh, it's women that are trying to become men, you know, trans-identifying females.
Even
and I was like, oh, okay, but it's still women at the core. I'm like, that's still like so insulting. Like,
I can't even really like fault them for that. Like the women, you know, it's a complicated world for women, and especially gender non-conforming women. And I just, you know, the rest of us don't need to play along, though, is the bottom line.
Yes. Wait, you were saying something about before that. The AGP stuff, like.
Oh yeah, so and you know, that's why people will say like, we'll think that we are the ones that like hate gender nonconforming people or whatever, when many of us are gender nonconforming or were, or you know, many of us are lesbians. There are many Black women, for example, who are in radical feminism, and yet, you know, we're white feminists who are bigots, who are hating on GNC people, and it's like, how many ways? By the way,
it's not just white women that are saying this shit, even remotely. Like,
oh, I know. I know. But
it's not that at all. It's just once you look at it and once you know,
you should talk to a Black radical feminist. You know, just talk to one.
It's like, I love how they try to pick this one outlet to like frame us as that. Where it's like, well, no, honey, if you do the research and you do the research, when you see a man that's 50 years old, overweight, wearing a Lolita dress, you know, I know what it is. I don't think from my studies and what I've seen, it's not you being gender nonconforming at all, because you're wearing that shit in public. You want people to look at you because it's your fetish, and you're bringing your fetish out in the open, and we're just supposed to accept your fetish and participate in your fetish, because when you put your fetish out there and you're walking around, you know, you put your photo in like women's groups on Facebook being like, look at me, like half naked, just because we're just supposed to take it because transgender people can't be touched. It's like, but I don't want to see that. And again, if you want to do that shit, like that's to me, kinks and sex is bedroom.
We know how manipulative those men are, and we've dealt with those type of men in private for many, many years, and it's insulting to us. You know what I'm saying?
Or this doesn't happen. We don't do that.
We're not discerning enough to figure this shit out. You know, like I can see that shit a mile away and call it for what it is, and it's really insulting to feminists to you know, insinuate that we're not discerning enough to spot a suspicious dude.
Like, exactly. It's, you know, I mean, teaching people to just ignore their instincts on like that just makes me like, it's like,
that's what this
if it makes you uncomfortable, isn't that your like, it's like the caveman thing that's just it's just it's in humans to have instincts of like, something's not right about this. That's why, you know, me lying to you and using your pronouns when you're a guy and she, her, whatever, and call you female stuff. I'm like, so I'm gonna sit here and lie to you and lie to myself. When I have this gut feeling of like, but
ickiness,
and even if not ickiness, but even if they look convincing as a female, like there's still something about it where I'm like, something is not right, and it's not right, and I don't feel right. Playing your game. It's nothing personal. I'm not trying to offend you. I am not going to start distorting reality and changing the terminology, because that's when it kind of starts.
It's a slippery slope.
Yes,
it really is.
That's where it starts, and it's just I can't. I mean, and it, you know, and when
And
this was
I don't want to give the wrong impression that, you know, radical feminists think that being gender nonconforming is a slippery slope, because I don't
that's not
necessarily
it at all.
think it is. I think
No.
what happens is that in conjunction with the fact that we're expected to lie to others and lie to ourselves under the guise of just being kind, just be a kind person, you know? And I think that's where it makes me so uncomfortable
Yeah,
that
be kind is the new
I had
obey
to
or whatever.
speak out about it, you know?
Yeah. What is
Yeah,
it? Be kind is the new do as I say or something like that. Just so authoritarian, like you must
yeah.
think this way, you must do
But
it.
then it also tries to send this message that if you go against any of the rhetoric, then you're automatically unkind, and that's a bad thing, and that's always
It's always your fault. It's
to
always
be
your
called
fault.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare you think on
And
your own and be like, this isn't right. It just teaches you not to think.
and I wouldn't
Because that's
say
dangerous. Dangerous. No.
and I wouldn't say it's unkind to tell the
Not at all.
truth, and I wouldn't
No.
say it's hateful to tell the truth, and is
Never.
exactly what
Never.
J.K. Rowling tried to say, you know.
Yep.
And she was right.
Of course she is. Nothing she said was fucking
So.
transphobic. Give me a break. And the people that
What even is transphobia anymore?
everything. I used to have a
It's
screensaver that said
everything.
nature is a turf. It's just like,
Yeah.
Mother Nature. Oh, you're
We didn't make the
excluding
rules.
trans whatever. It's just everything. If it doesn't go along, if you're not agreeing with them, turf, transphobic. You're
Yeah.
phobic. It's just so corny.
Afraid and
Yawn. I know. I'm like, I'm not
I'm
afraid of
afraid.
shit. Ah. What was the point? Not the point, but you had something I wanted to hear that you said. Oh, if we don't speak out now, kind of a thing. It was like if people don't, not us, but just people in general. I think that's what you're saying.
what I had talked about with you earlier
Yeah.
before I came on. Okay. I think it's just that I think it's important for women to speak out, but I just wonder like what's gonna happen, like what's gonna be the tipping point, and then what are people going to expect out of each other once all this is over? Like, am I gonna expect an apology from these dudes who, basically made me waste my time trying to explain what a woman was when I am a woman, and you're talking to one,
God
and
in
fuck
heaven.
you. And you also have a girlfriend, dude.
Fuck all the way off.
I'm assuming you sleep with on occasion. I don't know.
That poor woman.
But, it's just like, it's so fucking insulting. But yeah, what can we expect out of, like, the end of this whole thing? Do you think it's going to end? Do you think it's going to take a while?
I think it's going to take a while, at least 10 years to... I'm not even going to say or promise that there's going to be some sort of deprogramming, because I don't know.
Basically, we're all going to be canceled before this whole thing blows.
I've already been canceled. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I'm on the precipice of beginning to be canceled because this is my first TV appearance.
Oh, shit.
No, not TV appearance.
I feel honored. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
No, I think that it's going to come to a place where something's going to happen where they're going to pretend like it never happened and they were never a part of it. They're going to go, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. They're not going to apologize. No way. Because if you apologize, that admits that you were wrong and you were a part of that shit.
Yeah.
No, these people are already weak because they're... Of course
it's embarrassing. But
these people are already so weak that they're going along with it. And in the sense that I'm not saying... It's so easy to be captured by this, is what I'm saying. Is that I have smart-ass friends. I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just a cult. Like, you don't have to be dumb to be captured by this. It's all sorts of people. And it is incredibly deceptive.
I have a lot of respect for these men and women who disagree with me that I'm friends with. I have a lot of respect for them as people. I love them deeply and I care about them.
Yeah.
I'm saddened that they think I'm a bad person all of a sudden, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not saddened. I think, we have a tendency to like not want to admit that because it's like we're vulnerable. No, I'm really sad. It makes me sad. I wish that we could be friends still. It sounds like, a elementary school thing, but no, I'm the type of person that like deeply, deeply loves my friends, and I don't always like show it because I'm kind of introverted and quiet and kind of like
friends are so
nerdy, but it's just like, every once in a while I'll think about them and I'll just be like, oh, I have so much respect for you. You're so smart. And I really appreciate all your little quirks and stuff like that. And it does make me sad that I feel like now I have to look at it where like they didn't see me that way, or
They're just misguided. They're just misguided.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't want to frame it in a way that they're like shitty people or
no.
they've just been captured. They've been fucking there. They didn't protect their mind. Like I think that this whole thing, you really have to protect your mind.
You have to inoculate yourself in some way or another.
That's why I don't play the pronoun game or lying to people, because I'm like I need to protect my mind, and that's okay.
That's your boundary. Like that's your prerogative.
Yep.
That's good. That's good and healthy to do. In 100%. My opinion. Yeah.
What was you saying alongside that?
Sorry.
Oh, you didn't. No, you're fine.
I feel like there's so many topics to cover. It's so easy to like lose your train of thought.
It's just every day.
I want to go off on different tangents.
Go for it. Just do it. If you,
yeah, but I think there's a lot of vulnerable people that got caught up in the movement, and they may not even realize just how vulnerable mentally or emotionally that they are. And I think postmodernism in general has become like a really safe haven for people just looking for an answer. And it can't be found. They're not going to find this comfort in sort of a more objective truth and an objective viewpoint. And so they seek comfort in the validation that you get from just like viewing everything in a subjective way where I'm the good. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's a really intoxicating viewpoint. And
yeah. And it really, God, it's horrible. It's such a predatory movement. Erin, I think it was Erin from Partners for Ethical Care, one of their videos. She was saying how one of the lobbyist groups or whatever literally was having a meeting. I need to like find the source on this because I totally believe it. Was telling the people, find the kid that's by themselves at the lunch table and go friend them. And I was like,
I saw that. Yes.
What? I'm like, oh my God, these poor kids. They're literally preying on the vulnerable who don't have friends, who are awkward, maybe autistic. I mean, whatever, name it. The nerds or the one that would be by themselves. I was like, oh my God. That would be me
too. And I think a lot of us feel the same way. And I think we're scared because we think like, oh God, what if that was me?
It would have been. I feel like I would have fallen for this shit. It's just such a, like you said, intoxicating is a great word. It's just awful. And I feel like a lot of it's so rebellious, like, and it's giving.
It is. There's that the ROGD, the fact that it's like the new anorexia.
Oh yeah. That's why.
I truly, people have taken issue with the book or some of, Abigail Schreier's associations with conservative viewpoint, whatever. It
doesn't matter. It's not about left or right. I hate that shit. I'm like, there is no left. It's not about left or right, even remotely. That's not even a part of it. You're going to start sabotaging your mentality behind it if you start being like, well, I'm not going to read that article because it's from a conservative place. Which, by the way, the only people that are able to put out the damn articles or video interviews are the conservatives. So, fuck. I was like, oh my God, we're fucked because people are going to be like, conservatives and Republicans are whatever. This whole like...
And
oh my God, I hate that shit.
And I think like motivation does matter. And I think her main motivation was that she was seeing like this happening to parents and their kids and it tearing their relationships apart. And then when she did more digging, inevitably she saw this stuff and she felt compelled. She felt like she had a responsibility.
Like you and me. It's just something that it's just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like no one else is gonna, I mean, I will, because again, like I've said a million times, I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I'm not in academia. I've already canceled myself. Like, what the fuck has he been canceling anyways? I just feel like it's so...
Let me just cancel myself right now.
Yes, say it.
I'm hereby canceled. I'm done.
I mean...
it's like, whatever.
Yeah. What was I saying?
But yeah, Abigail, so you're gonna... Yeah. You're canceled. You don't have a 9-to-5. You're like... You can...
Yeah. Oh, it's just something that I've never felt so compelled to do something about something in my life like this. It feels like it's my life calling. It's just like a duty that I'm just like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Because I know people are terrified and can't, or, are living in fear because that's what the fucking cult has, put people in these fucking mental prisons of, oh, I can't speak out, I'm gonna be called these names. Losing your, like I've said, your job, your friends, your what you feel like is your, a security and comfort in your life. But I'm like, I almost want to say that that's not, I mean, this is the kind of shit that you have to be ready and willing to let go of, because we're talking about losing everything you have as like a global thing. Like, that's why I'm like,
As a woman in our society.
yes.
I mean,
And but also, like, it's I think it's just fucking up everyone, men and women. I used to be like, oh, I get why people don't do it because you're gonna lose things, whatever. But at this point, I'm like,
it's
you kind of have to.
convoluted. It's confusing. Like, it really is.
Oh, for sure. I feel like it's just gonna affect these people that aren't speaking out at some point anyway. So I mean, you gotta just face it and just be like, no more.
Yeah.
We can't sit complacent anymore with saying nothing. That's just my belief, because it's the more you're quiet about this, the more you're letting them fucking win. Do you really want that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I fucking don't.
I don't. Yeah. And I, obviously I'm saddened by losing friends. I don't want to lose friends. I don't have like
no one wants
that many friends that I even live near because I've traveled so much and things like that. And I moved back to my home state recently, and so it's just like, yeah, when you're in that vulnerable position, you're like, that's the worst time to speak out, but it's almost like the best time to speak out. Like, just don't look at it like it's the worst time to speak out. Like, look at it like, okay, I may as well take this opportunity to do this now.
I feel like it's gonna bite these people in the ass eventually, anyways. Like, when one way or another. And honestly, when one, here we go, cliche. By the way, since when has cliches not been true? When one door closes, another one opens, and it's been so true for me. Like, as soon as I lost my best friend. By the way,
exactly.
I don't want to say lost, because I told her at the end of the conversation that my door is open. My mom told me, because I was like, what do I do? And she made a great point. It's like, I would recommend keeping the door open, because these people are going to need people to go to when they, when they need someone and they break free from it. And I was like, it's such a good point.
And I think people will need an opportunity to kind of save face. Like, you'll need to be the one to give them that opportunity, basically.
Yeah, be like, I get it,
Yeah.
Or,
I was, welcome. Like...
Yeah, it's so true though. I've met so many wonderful women and men from
same here.
Social media. I mean, it's how I met you. It's just like it's basically one of those things where people that like denounce you or be like, you're bad, you're unfriending you thing. It's like, you did me the favor, because well, if you're gonna jump off just because of this one thing, I don't know, it's so difficult, because I'm like, they're being manipulated, controlled by this ideology where it's like, I feel like it's not really them, but still, it's like, life is short, and if that's what you want to think, that really fucking sucks, because it's not reality. But I don't have time. I gotta focus on me. And
well, and like, a lot of these people, they weren't ever going to be radical feminists to begin with, which is fine.
But you don't have to be, even call yourself anything. I just
yeah. I'm saying, like, on the trans rights activists and ally side, like, there's all kinds, like, and a lot of them weren't gonna, fight for radical feminist ideals anyway, and that's fine. It's just, and I totally understand that. But yeah, I feel like we do need to give them an out, kind of, like a way to save face, a way to be like, okay,
like, welcome
we'll
them.
just,
You can
like,
be safe with me, because
exactly. And
God.
And I know there are like a lot of radical feminists who take issue with us focusing so much on like the gender critical aspect of it. But, there's always going to be people that think we should be focusing on one thing or another in any group. Like, it doesn't, you just got to like take it with a grain of salt and
do what you want.
Whatever speaks to you as your like platform or your thing, or and there are plenty of issues for a radical feminist to focus on and center their activism around, like plenty.
Yep.
So I have like a passion for obviously like working with kids and stuff, because I was a teacher like in many ways I've always been a teacher, and I always like knew I would be. And I've been trying to get away from that in recent years to focus more on like writing and stuff like that. So I was like, well, how can I help young girls like not in a school setting, because I have my issues with traditional school settings.
Oh, that's fucked. Everything,
Obviously,
law,
yeah.
school,
That's
academia, all that shit is
a whole thing. Yeah.
yank 'em
So
out of school. Nope.
so I'm like, with, and how we talked about like kind of the defanging of feminism and of people in general earlier, and of activism on the left. Oh, it's again,
I think defanging?
The defanging. I took that from Gail Dines. I love her, but I think she's the one that said it. The defanging of feminism, and
does that mean like the like scary feminist shit? Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean by that?
It's just like we've essentially just like neutered ourselves, and we just aren't like very, we are focused on the activism and the actions and being subversive. You know what I'm saying? Like doing the real work. Yeah. And she talks about how like liberal feminism has affected that in a lot of ways, and the prevailing mindsets and whatever. So I just really like that term to describe it. But yeah, so I wanted to write books for like younger girls. Like, what are some like actions that you can take? What are some real like subversive things that you can do that are like actually empowering, because I want it's like one thing to just talk about it in groups with like-minded people all day, but that could definitely be a way to use my skills and use my
100%, especially if you feel like you're being drawn to that, and it's I think definitely go with it.
But yeah,
and getting to children, young, I think is what the fucking really transgender shit is using and abusing, literally. God, how awful.
There are a lot. I will say this, and you're right, it is really depressing sometimes, but
horrible.
Yeah, and I do feel kind of sad when I see like teachers putting their pronouns on their bios and stuff like that. And I'm just like, and I know that they mean well, because teachers are so kind-hearted a lot of the time, and they're just trying to do the best they can for the students, and they really honestly believe that that's going to like help a student confide in them if need be, and open the door. Yeah.
Because my ex-best friend is a teacher. And I sent her the pronouns are rohypnol thing. And she was like, I'm still going to use pronouns in the classroom. I was like, did you even read it? Like, it's very clear that people don't pay attention, because if she would have read it, she would have said something, I guess, about it, or like an opinion or whatever. But the first thing she says is, I'm still going to use pronouns in the classroom. I'm like, well, what did you think about it? Did you read the damn thing? Because I'm like, that's very clear to me that you didn't read it, because it's I guess, you send a link, and these people in this ideology that are going along with it don't read past headlines. Oh,
I know. Because it's triggering. It's very triggering. They
don't want to I feel like they don't want to admit that they're wrong, or again, it's just also...
Well, people are very afraid of being confronted with something that they will have no choice but to agree with.
Yep.
And they are very afraid of that.
That they join something, or went along with something that's not, and that ain't it. I think it just takes a crazy, strong, actual, brave, and stunning person to stand up against this shit.
I agree. Yeah.
And
there are a lot of younger radical feminists, which I was not only surprised but pleased with.
I mean,
on Tumblr, TikTok, and stuff. They're getting a lot of hate, but because they're so young, I feel like it's super brave of them to be doing that.
Oh,
like,
100%.
I mean, it's so cool, and that's
it's so important putting your voice out there, whether it is anonymous on Tumblr or on Twitter or whatever, because it honestly does this domino effect where someone like me or whoever, other people that are doing this, and they go, oh man, I'm not alone. And it gives people the confidence to potentially speak out. I mean, I started speaking out when I saw that the LGB wanted to drop the T, and I was like, what? Oh my God, I'm not crazy then. Because I'm like, what? The people within that umbrella are like, get the L out, like LGBT drop the T. I was like, holy shit, we have something here. If they're like, no.
Which is a testament to just how hard it has really hit like the other letters of the acronym.
Oh my God. Yes.
I
think we need if you're within, LGB or whatever. I really want to uplift those people because we just need more like variety. We hear a lot from white women, and that's not bad, but I'm like, God, if people are able to see that there's not just us affected as white women, but lesbian, gay, black, Asian, like anything, like it's just gonna make people go, whoa, it's affecting them too. It's not just the same demographic. I'm like, and there's some people that trying,
and even that there's homosexual trans people who agree with us, like even that, you're so right. Like
they're so important. I really would love to uplift their voices because they are so affected by this. I see what they say, and it's just so horrifying because the transgender ideology is stealing what the gay rights movement have worked so hard to get the rights that they've gotten, and just being like, oh, we're that, like we're in the same umbrella. And I'm like, oh my God, they're so not the same. Homosexual gay people are not being like, you have to sleep with me, and you have to also, I'm trying to compare it, or like I'm like, how is it so not obvious? Like those people, they just want to like live their life and have the same rights as straight people have. Like it's not making you believe that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there were actual rights that they had to fight for.
Yes.
Whereas tell me, like, what are the rights that trans people did not have because they are either male or female? If you are female, then you are included in radical feminism. You are.
They're not allowed to do sport. Trans-identifying males aren't allowed to do sports with females. I'm like, motherfucker, because their body is male. Like, come on. Stop it.
But on the basis of being trans, there are no laws that... Yeah, exactly. So it's almost just like, it's a distraction from the fact that, like, there's really not much to be fighting for.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, what I want to clarify there is that they're allowed to do sports. I love how they frame this shit. Like some Texas sports agency or I don't remember what it was. Trans
You're stopping
women
us from competing.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we're not. You can absolutely compete with your biological sex. Like, what? I love how they frame it that way, where they, oh God, it's such a manipulation of language, where they say transgender women are, aren't allowed to play sports with women. I'm like, well, they're not women. Stop using that word. They are men.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course it's gonna fool people into believing like women are being barred from competing with women. Well, that's just not right. I'm like, do you even know what transgender women means? I think people don't even know. I think they think it means woman.
No, like
a woman.
They do. Because the language is confusing. We haven't, all of before, since this ideology has taken hold, it did not give society a time to catch up and to understand all the terms being used and the jargon being used. And it's just like regular people don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, which is the funny part, it's a lot of the time this whole argument and conversation is framed as just like TERFs versus TRAs type of thing. But it's literally, then there's like all these other people that I think, there's a variety of reasons why they might go along with it. Like either they think they have a trans kid and they don't know what to do. Like, there's just
homophobia,
so many,
because they'd rather have a straight kid, which is not a straight kid. They'd rather trans 100%, their kid out of being a homosexual child because
it's conversion therapy. Yeah.
Yes, trans the gay away. Because then you have a faux. Oh God! Like, instead of having a gay boy or son, the son becomes becomes a woman, and then that man. I just can't even frame it in a way to be safe.
And I know. I think a lot of people will know what you're getting at because it happens. It tends to happen before they've even reached puberty, but they've already started to display like gender nonconforming actions or traits, or just like, okay, they like friggin' sparkle. You
Yeah.
know, they love a tutu now and then. You know,
Yes. A
and
blue
it's just
chair.
and it's just a parent's reaction because of their internalized homophobia, just being like, "Oh my God, my kid's probably going to be gay because he
Yes.
wanted to put on a sparkly
Oh my
tutu
God,
and
yep.
twirl around, and God knows why he wants to do that." You know, like
And
it
also,
could
I think
just
the
be
parents, yeah,
a
I think that
whim. Yeah,
exactly. I think the parents are also
ridiculous.
going along with what society and even doctors are telling them that this is
Yeah,
okay and this is what you should be doing because they're like,
which
I don't know, I'm a parent, like, or I imagine that they just don't know because
mm-hmm.
like you, you live through this life like trusting doctors and society and like or
Well, and gender nonconforming traits are being pathologized so
oh my
that
God.
you now will, you know, parents are being trained to look for gender nonconforming actions in their young children and to kind of, you know, feel it out, see whether or not they're trans.
And
And it's
question it
just
and have the
like,
kid question it, which is so what the
yeah,
fuck. You know, these kids are like in elementary school, and it's like, oh, did you know that you can become a boy? Like, can you imagine how mind fucking crazy that is to a
yeah.
kid? It's like, wait, what? Like, they're not ready for that stuff. Also, it's just so very getting confused young, so then they fall into this
Mm-hmm,
medicalization path for the rest of their life.
mm-hmm.
Complicated shit. I mean, God. Um, what was it saying about the
Well,
kid
and
stuff?
it's when did we as a society start believing that kids like know what they
Oh,
want and are able to like conceptualize these things. I as a teacher, this is just the most shocking aspect to me because I'm like, do you know what a child is? Like I don't,
kids are still
you
filling
know?
out the
Yeah.
world. Yeah, it's like
And
kids go
let
into
them
the
do it.
yeah,
It's
the clinic
sad,
and
but
the clinics are God, I keep forgetting what the term is. It's not self ID, but it's something where they basically get what they want when they go to the clinic, where there's no like
the
psychology.
affirmation model. Is that yeah,
Yeah,
the
something like that.
affirmation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where I'm like, what? Since
Hmm.
when do you go to a doctor? And I always make this joke of taking the stethoscope
Yeah.
off and giving it to the kid, like,
Oh
you're
yeah.
the doctor now because it's your decision and you decide. Because, well, I'm
Mhm.
like, what the fuck are you even a doctor for? If it's like you're useless, you know, you're just go to
Yeah.
a doctor and have actual medical advice of there are there are
Mm.
really horrific side effects to binding. Um, Stopping your fucking normal process of going through puberty, male or female, doesn't matter, just
And
going through
when did we
puberty.
stop being skeptical of doctors, first of all? Like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I'm still a
yeah.
bit skeptical of the whole medical industry,
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
big
yes.
pharma, but all of a sudden, and these are the same people who would
Yeah.
normally, you know, be very skeptical, but no, now these doctors are somehow uber progressives. Like,
Like
it
they
just
just
doesn't
we
make any
have
sense.
as humans we have dollar signs on our head. If you can
Yeah.
convince people that this is what they need and it's gonna make them not commit suicide, what a fucking joke. You know what's so dangerous about that rhetoric is that they say, oh, if this kid doesn't get the surgery or hormone blockers, whatever, they're going to kill themselves. Guess what? When kids actually don't get what they want, they've been told this, and they that's they start believing it. Like, oh, well,
Hmm.
if this is actually happening, well, then I guess I'm supposed to kill myself now because that's what they say is going that it happens. So I'm like,
Hmm.
you can't just drop this shit into people's heads, especially youth who's
Right.
very they're sponges and like
Impressionable. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like they're gonna actually start acting that out and thinking that that's their duty because well these percentages or whatever emotional
Yeah.
blackmail
And
batshittery.
it's really wild that like us, you know, as what I see as the reasonable side,
Yes, yes.
in this whole like where with regards to like the aspect of that there's children involved in this now, we're being framed as the evil conversion therapists.
Oh
Like
God.
we're converting trans kids. I'm like, okay, like people who up until yesterday were very concerned about children and who generally were very accepting of like gender nonconformity, homosexuality, many of whom are homosexual. You know,
It's
like
so crazy.
what? Like it just makes no sense.
I feel
Yeah,
like
it's really nuts.
we need a undercover person to go in and like be re-indoctrinated or whatever in this to like because it's just like a
So wild.
God, it's all of it so damn subtle and sneaky. That's what really kills me is that people that I think that just unintentionally fell into it or were captured by it. It's so
Mhm.
sneaky. Like I don't even God.
Well, and I think it gives people who are experiencing their own issues surrounding their sexuality and how they want to express themselves, and they feel some shame about that. You know, it gives them an explanation for why they are that way. And when you don't need an explanation, you know, like I wanted to wear this, you know, lumberjack shirt. I don't need to explain that. I don't shave my body. You know, like, we're all, you know, gender nonconforming or conforming to certain degrees. And it's just sad to me that, like, really for example, my one friend that called me, you know, trans misogynistic or whatever, like, it's just interesting. It's never not going to be funny to me. I know, it's outrageous. It's never going to be not outrageous. Yeah.
That's why we also laugh at it, because if we're not able to laugh at this, and this is miserable. I mean, this isn't fun, but we just have to laugh. Like, it's mandatory.
And I think I had said something, and first of all, I'm like bisexual, and that's not me coming. It's not like a big deal to me anymore, but I've already, you know, said it.
Yeah.
But like, so that just to give this some context, and I get called like homophobic or whatever, and it's just funny to me because, you know, by the other side, obviously, but yeah, I'll say something like, I'll be trying to explain like how queer theory works and how the breaking down of boundaries is like directly like related to like the pedophilic intentions behind a lot of queer theory.
Oh, God.
And I will be called, he literally said that I was equating being gay with pedophilia. And I was like, it's just interesting to me how they just twist, you know, like they twist everything around like that.
How is that? Like, I don't understand. Where does that even fucking come from?
The only thing, you know, is that a lot of people really aren't aware of, for example, people like Foucault or Judith Butler or like the pioneers behind queer theory or behind like earlier postmodernist philosophy, and just how intrinsically tied it is to pedophilia. And it's very interesting. It's a rabbit hole for sure.
What? I wish you would have told me that earlier. I would have loved to have had a whole podcast about that.
I'll come back on and talk about it all.
Because I really want to discuss the topics that make people really uncomfortable, like autogynephilia, sissy porn, pedophilia, shit that people obviously aren't being told. Like, this stuff's being blocked and removed, and I don't know. It is uncomfortable, icky, horrifying shit. Like, I never thought I'd be researching this disturbing shit, because I don't want to put this shit in my mind, man.
But kids are seeing it. That's the thing. Kids are hearing it. They're being indoctrinated into it, and they're seeing it. And I never wanted...
sly ways sometimes, man. On TikTok, Tumblr, probably cartoons. Come on. I think there's a lot of stuff that even I've seen growing up as well. I mean, I know that for a fact, where I look back at it and I'm like, oh, God, it's like so subtle. Like,
I mean, I first saw porn when I was 10, 11. Online.
Oh my God, my first porn I saw was Simpsons cartoon porn. I was like, oh, get it off. No!
Ah!
I know, exactly. Oh,
that's
God.
So weird.
Oh, I know. I was like, kill me.
You're going to laugh when I tell you what mine was. It's too ironic in this context, but it was called She Male Surprise. I'm not even kidding. 10 years old, 11 years old.
Oh,
and yet I somehow managed not to be indoctrinated. But no, it's just like, you know, and I know people are like complaining that the trans people are being fetishized in porn and things like that, or people will only sleep with them because they see them as fulfilling some sort of fetish. But I think that they're not considering that to a large number of these AGPs, it is a fetish first.
Yeah, that's the whole sissy porn thing. Like, God, I can't even. It's just so disturbing,
and it's demeaning to women because
submit your holes.
Yes, Yeah, you're a hole. Oh, Andrea Long Chu, have you heard?
Oh, yes, I have. Of course, I have.
Women are a hole. They're a gaping, expectant hole.
Women are supposed to be fucked or something. I forgot what it was. I really would.
Sissy porn made him trans. That's the
I've heard
whole
the
article.
anime has made people trans or whatever. Dude,
mean,
sissy porn. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to talk about it because then people are gonna look into it, and I'm like, I just want to keep saying over and over, like,
please
protect
don't
your
watch
mind.
it. Yeah.
No, I know exactly. Because I want to research it, but I'm like, I don't want to even put this shit in my head.
Yeah.
So I refuse to watch the videos. I saw one video that I think it was something like hypnosis to become a female. It was so hilarious. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was like, oh my god. It was like,
because
music.
Woman is a mindset. You can hypnotize yourself.
It was fucking hilarious. I was like, what is this? She was like, now envision yourself looking down and seeing pink nail polish and just like swishing those hips. Like, I was like, oh god, this is ridiculous. Like, how? Oh god. No. I only listened to for 2 seconds because I was like, it's horrifying. I can sit there and laugh at it, but I think people are taking this seriously. Like, I think hypnosis is real, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is like for free. I don't want to say it because I don't want people to look it up.
But the thing is, like, the desire is already there. I mean, men are looking up sissy hypno porn. It's not like they're just like, oh, what is this? They know. So yeah, and I feel like we need to move past like all of the accurate representations of these men being framed as like, oh, you're just trying to like paint us with the same brush and with the wrong brush and all this stuff. No, these are accurate. These are people.
We just want to pee. We've been peeing next to you in bathrooms for years. Spoiler alert. I'm like, oh my god. No, you don't just want to pee. If you just wanted to pee, riddle me this. Why are you not creating your own bathrooms? Oh, that's right, because if you don't get to go into the women's bathroom as a man, you don't get to have that fetish fulfilled, and you're not going to be affirmed by going, yay, I've checked it off my scavenger hunt of becoming a woman. I'm in the women's bathroom. Look at me. Like, come on, people. Don't you think they'd be making their own bathrooms and spaces if it really was about that? And why is it immediately, how many women that are trying to be men have you heard about with this shit? None. It's all trans identifying males. All.
Well, and I had heard an interview, like, I think it was yesterday, because I watch a lot of D-trans women, and, they're talking about how terrifying it still is to use a men's room because you'll never not know that fear. Like, it's just something that you were raised with, so you'll never not think about the possibility anytime you enter an area where you're vulnerable with another man. And so, like, one of them, I think she said she had taught herself to like pee standing up. Oh, wow. And so she was like looking out of the like crack in the door or whatever in the bathroom, and caught the eye of a man who was like looking in and saw her and realized she was a woman, and he stayed like staring at her for like a full like 2 minutes, and she was terrified. Like, she said that she felt like she was in real danger, like, and she didn't know what was going to happen.
It's a woman thing. It's just like,
exactly.
Oh my god, that's so scary.
And it's very frustrating that we still have not managed to convince lefty men that this is a real thing, and that we're valid in our fears, and we're valid in our spaces, and that we don't owe fucking anyone anything.
We don't need to give you a reason why. Just no.
Exactly. No.
Yeah. No,
and it feels good to say that, and I think younger girls need to hear older women say that.
Yes, you don't need to give a reason. No, you know what? No. It's a human respect thing.
Yeah.
No.
We don't exist to validate men who don't feel like they fit in with other men who are weird. And you know what? I'm like the type of person that I've always empathized with, like, the underdog.
Same. I get really
growing up.
defensive about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I read books. I read, like people's firsthand accounts of things. Like, I'm a truly empathetic person, I feel like.
Same.
Deep in
I
my
think
soul.
most of us are. I mean, the ones that get it we get it. I don't know.
I don't want to stand for bullshit. I just don't. Like, I...
Bless up.
Bless.
Isn't that crazy that we're having to talk
good.
Yeah, doesn't it?
To
God
say
damn
that.
it, man. Woohoo! All right, well, I guess we can end there just because,
Yeah,
Christ, I've had so many conversations today. My brain is fried.
No,
It's great, though.
I
It's
feel
wonderful.
you.
And, people out there, you are not alone. God, reach out, find people that get it, reality, thinking people. Don't be afraid. Like, there are people that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're never alone.
Can I just like
Yes,
quick
please. Absolutely.
So I will be starting another RadFem YouTube channel soon. It's Full Metal
Awesome.
Feminist is the name.
Awesome.
Because I'm metal. Check it out. Check out my shirt.
Is that ovary?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's a fucking death metal like uterus with ovaries.
That is awesome. I love it. Fan.
And so and it's kind of after like Full Metal Alchemist, which is one of my Brotherhood, which is one of my favorite shows.
I definitely know of it.
Awesome. So so I'll be like covering a lot of topics. Like
so excited.
Why the question of why are you doing this? That type of thing. I'll go more into depth about that. What is radical feminism, Marxist feminism, gender critical viewpoints, all that stuff. I'll have interviews. So you're welcome to come on my channel.
Oh, thank you.
We'll chat many times.
Yes. Is there any other social media where they can currently find you?
Let's see. No, but I think I'm going to start an Insta, so I'll be posting a lot of like resources on there. So
excellent. Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I hope I didn't talk too much. I hope you got to say something. Oh, God.
No, I feel like it was a great conversation. Like, we covered a lot of topics.
We keep going because, my God. All right. Well, it's been real. I'll catch you later, and bye, people.
All right. Bye. Thank you.